really funny. I would find myself standing outside supermarkets. If there was a CCTV camera, I'd be outside for maybe half an hour. I'm like, I should get it. No, I shouldn't. I should get it. No, I shouldn't.
Yeah, you go through that battle.
And I just can't.
Yeah.
I want to go home, but my body won't let me go home. And I want to go to get it, and my body won't let me get it. It's like they're in this battle.
Yeah.
And the way to resolve this is there's one thing that can really overcome this is you relax. Like, it's such a tense experience that when you start to relax, all those hormonal triggers, they start to turn off, everything starts to slow down, and then you get like, I can actually go home. And here's the thing I want to make, the point I want to make. When you make that decision, you feel elated.
Yes, you
Nothing
do.
has ever tasted as good as me walking away
Yes.
from one of those moments.
And that is so true. It is like, and especially when you make the choice to eat something healthy on top of that,
Exactly.
you're just
It's
so
such a good
happy.
feeling.
You're like, I am so proud of myself.
Yeah.
Hey friends, Lissa here, and today I have Joseph Best from Raw Awakening, and he has a Fruitarian kind of like fasting house in Chiang Mai.
That's right.
Yeah, so, and you're from London?
I'm from London, yes.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, we're hanging out at a beautiful fruit fest in the UK. It's so sunny here.
Yeah. It's
And I'm catching up with some old friends of mine. I knew Doug Graham from 2000 and Rosalind as well, two great raw food speakers. And yeah, so I've been on this path for a very long time, and I used to call myself the world's worst raw fooder as a joke, because literally other people would fall away and I'm still there being the fattest guy at every fruit festival for the last 2 decades.
But how much weight have you lost altogether?
I've lost about 70 pounds now from the highs. But the reason why I joke about it, because I don't take any of that seriously. There's many gifts that you get from following a raw food lifestyle, and one of the gifts I've got is complete and utter acceptance of everything just as it is. So you start to be able to, I wasn't expecting to get that. I thought I would get super lean and really muscly, but instead what I got was an extremely challenging path of addiction, which is why I'm really drawn to Lissa and her story. But from that, this constant facing of cravings all day, every day, introduced me to something about myself that never changes. This like benevolent presence that we are. And that just allows this acceptance. So what I started doing is, how can I make this journey extremely enjoyable and outcome independent? So I'm not enjoying it because I'm being raw today, and then I'm not enjoying it because I'm not being raw. I'm enjoying it because I'm raw, and now I'm not because I'm not. I'm enjoying all of it, just like a roller coaster. Up, down, you love the whole ride. And that's why I decided, even though I was overweight, I opened up a fruit house, because I'm like, it's not about my own journey as such, it's about my capacity to hold space for people to feel relaxed in their own journey. And that's what I do, and it's been fabulously successful in so many ways.
Yeah. And then we wanted to do this little video to talk about how, if you're not at your goal, if you're not quite there yet, to not feel bad, or you know, you're on a journey. And we were talking about that Sanskrit word that you couldn't remember.
So there's a Sanskrit word that I came across that I can never find it because it's Sanskrit, and I can never remember what it says because I'm dyslexic. But the essence of it was that you are perfect as you, the word means to be perfect as you are and still striving to grow, right? And this is what a lot of humans are like, but we tell ourselves, I'm not perfect here, but I am perfect there. And the analogy that I share with people that I like is that if you put a seed in the earth, it's perfect. If the seed sprouts through the soil, it's a perfect sprout. When the bud appears, it's a perfect bud. And when the flower blossoms, it's a perfect flower. So even though there is clearly a transformation from seed to flower, it's fully super complete at every stage. And all humans, however you are, you're always super complete. And just when you say that word, you're like, oh.
Yeah, I feel complete right now.
Just feel complete.
I'm perfect in where I am.
Yeah, and you can't add anything to it in a forcible way. What happens is that you continue on your path of exploring raw foods, and then sometimes slipping into other foods and coming back again, and you evolve. And what we often miss is part of the evolution is the slipping up. I've learned way more about life from when raw food is difficult than when it's easy. Like, it's been so many lessons. And it's like I said to Christina earlier, I said that what life is, it's an unflowering of your true self before your very eyes. And the only mistake you can make is to not try and do stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. And it doesn't matter how long it takes you to get where you need to go. It's about loving yourself through all of those stages.
Exactly.
Perfectly as you are, and to not feel that guilt or regret, or that you're not perfect, and not comparing yourself to others. And one of my favorite quotes is, comparison is the thief of joy.
Exactly.
Because when you start comparing yourself to others, or you're not at that weight, or maybe you gained a little bit of weight and you're not the way you were before, and you get into this negative state, you're comparing yourself, and it takes away your joy, and it takes away any of that momentum that you might have had to keep going and moving forward.
Yeah, and all of those things that you said where people get caught trying to get to that place, I can guarantee you, if you don't like where you are now, you're not going to like where you are there. Yeah,
that's so true too. People seem to want to run away from where they are right now, whether it's where they're living, or their job, or a relationship, or whatever. If they're trying to run away from it, you're not going to get.
There's another great saying for this. It's like wherever you are, wherever you are, there you are.
Yeah, there you are, and you're always going to be with yourself. So the whole goal.
One of the things I used to do. So go on.
Oh, to be more comfortable with yourself in that moment.
Yeah. So what I realised that the raw food is a challenge for me. I grew up with very strong addictions, and that's a whole nother video to discuss why that happens. But some people, they have the right circumstances within their biochemistry, their social upbringing, and the way foods are stimulative to them, that they become very addictive to it. Once you know that about yourself, you have to accept that. One of the things that I help to break this idea that I think is quite destructive in the raw food or the food transformation world is that everyone is the same. And if you give 10 people in a room a guitar and say, go make a song, one person the next day will come back and they'll be like, I've got a song. And someone will be in between, and there'll be one person who's got the guitar upside down and back to front, and we wouldn't think that was a problem. But if you tell 10 people go raw overnight, you're going to get the same response, because it is a skill as well. But we don't allow for that difference in people. We're like, everyone should be able to go raw because you've heard about it. Why aren't you sticking to the program? No, you have to find out where you are, find out what your challenges are, and embrace them as a training program. So I call it the gift of addiction, because I was given something as a food addict, which was 3 or 4 times a day I get an opportunity to be brilliant.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. Yeah.
And nothing has been as powerful in my life as facing that. And it changed me. My journey was not to go raw overnight. I got into raw a year before Christina with Doug Graham back in London in 2000. It was actually 3 years before.
Wow.
So 3 years before, and with David Wolf as well. And I've struggled ever since. But I'm the one person that never gave up, because the gifts I was getting from this consistent failure was what I needed. I evolved. I found a completely blissful state of mind. I became so much more self-loving and accepting of others. So it was like, this is your training program, Mr. Best. And I was like, thank you very much. And now what's happening is, little by little, the food is finding me without me having to strive for it. It's just, I'm finding, my mind is saying, go get a papaya.
Yeah.
It never used to say that, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting how it's cool that you're coming from food addiction, because I came from food addiction as well. And I use that quote, complete abstinence is easier than perfect moderation, because
100%.
Trying to do these things in moderation, I found with my personal food addiction, it's so much easier to just say no and to never have it and to keep it out and to not do the cheat days. And in the beginning I felt guilty that I wasn't having cheat days, because all these fitness gurus and everybody on Instagram would be like, it's okay to have a cheat day, it's all good, love yourself, blah blah blah, and when I see that on Instagram, I feel really bad for the people who are following them, because they're giving this advice to food addicts.
It's like telling a crack addict to have a cheat day.
Yeah, or
It's
an
like,
alcoholic.
It's not going to be a cheat day, it's going to be a cheat year.
Yeah.
And this is a really good point you make. So one of the things I want to mention is that when you slip up, even that's the wrong term, but it's a popular term.
Yeah.
When you slip up, what happens is that you have an urge, a binge, and then retribution to yourself. So you attack yourself. So urge, binge, negative talk. Urge, binge, negative talk. And I was caught in this cycle, and I was like, how do I break that? And I realized I can't stop the urge because it just seems to appear.
Yeah.
I can't stop the binge, or I wouldn't be in the problem.
Yeah.
But I could stop the negative talk. And I went through this period, it's about 12 years ago now, when I got rid of junk food. It was like, I'm eating in McDonald's on a binge and I'm just silent. I'm refusing to say anything negative about myself. And that was so healing, just to hold space for my own affliction while it's flourishing.
That's pretty powerful, yeah.
And it was just like, wow, it's amazing. And then that begins this healing journey. I'm not saying anyone is ever going to have to take as long as I have, because everybody's different, but don't see it as a beginning and an end. It's like a path of transformation that you enjoy all along the way. And I couldn't see this when I was really stuck in it, because I couldn't see how is this beneficial. I can't even eat a banana for half a day and I'm eating other stuff. But the wisdom is unfolding like the flower. It's unfolding and you're perfect at every time, and it will come to you. If you're sitting there and you're struggling with this, you have to trust that that what you're looking for will arrive through this path if you just stay conscious to it and enjoy yourself.
Exactly. So what do you say to people who come to you and you're like, oh, I'm a raw vegan and all this, and you know, it's hard to explain, but they have this, most people have this perception that if you're raw vegan, you're perfect. You know, which we are perfect anyways, but the societal perception of, you know, you should be lean and you should be, your skin should, because when I first started being raw vegan, it took quite a few months before I got to a state of feeling like I was healthier and feeling like I could actually tell people like, yeah, I'm a raw vegan or whatever. But
I get it.
It's really interesting how we feel like we're still going to be judged, you know, based on how we look.
So your question is, what would I say to someone when they're raw vegan and they want to tell someone they're raw vegan, but they don't look like how raw
they don't
vegans
look
should
like
look?
a raw vegan.
Okay, this is a great question. It's such a good question. I'll tell you why. Because this has nothing to do with the person you're talking to.
Exactly.
It's all about you.
About
so
you.
I will look someone square in the face and I will say, I'm a fruitarian.
And
If they don't say anything, I don't know they're thinking negative things about me.
Exactly.
I'm assuming it. It's my issue.
That's very, very cool.
It's my issue. And if they go, bloody hell, you're a bit fat to be a fruitarian, which I've actually had, then I'll address it. I used to get called, people on YouTube used to say to me that I'm too fat to be a vegan. Like, there's loads of fat vegans.
Yeah, there's tons of fat vegan. You can even be a fat raw vegan too.
So as an overweight person, we are so bashed by the health food industry because they tell you things like this. And I'm diabetic as well. So they tell you diabetes is easy to cure. You just have to eat fruit or cut out fat. They tell you that weight loss is easy to do. All you've got to do is eat less food and exercise. And none of these are proven through any kind of scientific research in terms of their mechanics, in terms of their psychological aspects as well. And I'll tell you what I mean. I sometimes get badgered because I'm a diabetic and it's my fault, and all I've got to do was cut out the fats and I'll be non-diabetic. Why don't you just do it, Joe? And what I say to them is that there's two types of diabetics. There's type 1s, and they have a genetic issue. And type 2 have a food-borne issue. So type 1s, often what you'll find is that they grew up with diabetes. They've never had the same level of addiction because they were born into a life of food control. So they're normally quite lean and they're well behaved with their food. So they have the struggle of healing organs. It's harder physiologically, but it's somewhat easier in terms of the psychology. With type 2 diabetics, diabetes is a symptom of the disordered eating. So to tell people just stop the disordered eating is
Yeah,
not
it's
a
not-
cure.
no.
I almost ignore my diabetes from the perspective that the problem is the disordered eating. Does that make sense?
Yes, totally.
So it's the same
Yeah.
with weight loss as well. It's like some people's, I call it their carb, it was made up, like how much carbs you can eat in your storage systems, how much
Yeah.
you can eat before it starts to spill over into your blood.
Right.
And everyone's different. And if you are sensitive to that, it becomes quite hard to lose weight. Plus, there's all these things involved which are called double binds, which are psychological and come from your childhood. So you might be like, I really want to be lean, but every time I get lean, I feel vulnerable.
Yes.
So I start eating again.
That's what happened to
Yeah,
me.
exactly.
I would get smaller and smaller, and then I would feel more attractive, and I didn't want to be at the time in my life. I wanted to hide and be not noticeable. So then I would subconsciously start eating and binging again,
Exactly.
so that I would just be bigger and hide
Exactly.
from
So
society.
to understand what happens and what I've learned in my education is that people who are of a normal weight, they have less triggers for eating. Right? They might be like, it's lunchtime, or that sandwich looks nice. But people who have, you've got a message, guys. So, people who have weight issues, when you live in their body and in their world, they are getting bombarded with triggers to eat
Yes.
of such a high magnitude that you can't even fathom it. Like for me, I've come back to England. I was doing very excellent in Chiang Mai. I've come back to UK. Petrol stations make me so hungry.
Yeah.
Right, it's just one of my triggers.
Triggers,
Seeing my dad made me really hungry. Haven't seen him for a couple of years. Like, you just, if you have all these triggers, what you have to do in your life to heal it is you have to undo every trigger. Right, you have to face every trigger, and you have to have a moment in your life where that trigger, and you know about this, that trigger is at its peak, and you say no. No one's ever cured an addiction after they've used.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
It has to be
exactly.
sitting there, and you're like, "Ugh," and you don't. And there could be thousands of triggers, so it takes a long time. And that's my point. I use those moments to heal everything about myself,
Yeah.
as a personal growth program, and then it becomes enjoyable.
It does. It's
Yeah.
totally enjoyable, and
So
it's
enjoyable.
totally doable. And if you are struggling and in your moving forward with a raw vegan diet and you're just not quite there, don't feel bad about where you are in your
Yeah.
journey, because it's a beautiful moment that you're in right now. You're learning,
Exactly.
you're growing,
Yeah.
and it's you're feeding yourself awesome food. So you're gonna be
Exactly.
healthy, and it's just
Like, I want to add to this, right? So what's quite funny, I get all kinds of people that come to my house to do fruit fasting, and someone came there and they was 19, and they said, I've been doing this for 3 months now, and it's so difficult. Will it ever end? I'm like, I started when you was born. But I first discovered
Yeah.
raw food the year you was born. Like, and I'm still
Yeah.
alive, and I'm still relatively healthy, and
Yeah.
I've eaten so much junk food. So just relax about it. Wherever you find this journey, that's the perfect time to time it. That's the perfect time to find it. And wherever you flourish in this journey, that's the perfect time to flourish. And whenever you fully embrace it 100%, that's the perfect time to embrace it 100%. And everything else is just blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it just makes me, I'm so relaxed about this. I'm here, I'm seeing Doug Graham. I haven't seen him for 15 years. I'm about the same weight he last saw me, but in between I've done a massive arc.
yeah.
I've got really fat. I've got like 320 pounds. I'll come down again. And I'm not going to say to Doug, hey Doug, how you doing? Yeah, I'm not going to give a story.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about that. I'm not going to apologise that I haven't done as
Oh,
much
like,
as...
sorry, I haven't lost all the weight yet.
Because that's not why he's my friend.
No.
And we project this onto other people, and it's not fair because we don't behave like that.
No.
Yeah,
I know. It's so interesting.
But
the
we think other
psychology.
people do. So I sometimes say to people, like, they say to me something like, oh, all my friends are gonna judge me for not being so raw. I'm like, well, what makes you so special? And they're like, what do you mean? I goes, well, you don't judge your friends.
Yeah.
Why do you think they're going to judge you? What makes you special? Why can't you think your friends are also not going to judge you?
Yeah. Exactly.
It's
I
a good
know.
one,
And we
right?
project these because
Yeah.
in reality, it's your own internal
It's your own
judgment,
voice.
and you're projecting it onto these people assuming they're thinking it, but it's really you that's
Exactly.
thinking it. So
And that's where the healing comes
That's
from.
where the healing comes.
And this is what's really, it gets very subtle and very deep with this. But that voice is is part of the reason why you are also still in the issue. Because there's this voice that, like I'll explain it to you a little bit, but when it comes to addiction, I've done so much research on this, and what I've discovered is that the best way to look at it is it's a survival mechanism that's been hijacked. So basically, I'm born into the world and I'm given a strawberry. And I'm like, it's not so good. I'm given a bigger strawberry. I'm like, oh, I remember where those strawberries are. Then I find a bigger strawberry. I'm like, wow, that's even better. I remember where those are. And then someone gives me a man-made strawberry. I'm like, wow, that's even sweeter. I remember what shop I bought those at. And then someone converts that in, it just gets man-made. Our body mechanism has never faced a period in existence where good tasting foods are also harmful. There is no ever existence of that in nature. If something tastes good to you, to any animal, it's good for it. There are no tricks of that kind. There is nothing that's poisonous that tastes good to any animal. So man-made food has hijacked our mechanism of survival, because when I eat something sweet, all my dopamine tells me that's good. All my serotonin tells me that's good. My amygdala remembers where it is, it patterns matches to it, and this is where triggers are made.
Yes.
And that's why McDonald's is always on the pole with a big M on the top. Because every time you see that, it's like a ripe fruit tree.
Yeah.
That's what it's telling us, and it has the handmade food as well. So they're very clever. You're driving along, you're not hungry. Want something in my hands to eat. It's as if we was walking through the forest,
and we would see an apple tree.
Would go for it, right? So once they've done that, if you're of certain types, and I know which types are the most susceptible, aren't you a very determined person?
Yes.
Aren't you very tenacious?
Yes.
I'm the same. So if we're in nature and there is one mango tree right over there, we will see it.
Yes.
And we will get there, we will swim the lake, we will drive our car at midnight to go to the donut shop. That's swimming the lake to get that food. So all of these things that have been hijacked are the skills that made our genes still be here. So we've been hijacked by man-made food to take the assets that we have as strong survival humans, very sensitive to food, very stimulative, very determined to get it, that made us survive. Plus, we put on weight easy. So when there's no mango trees, all of the other people are dead, and we'll be like, I've got another 2 months left. I've still got 2 months on this shit.
Totally.
Right, exactly. So then, so these things, what's happened to us now? We've been stuffed with abundance, and we've been really addicted to it. And this is just the point I want to make. The survival mechanism then tells you, and this is what that voice is, you need to eat that.
Yeah.
So when you're eating a salad, it's thinking, because it's like your protector for your dumbness. You're eating a salad and it's like, yo, Lissa, you need this one.
Yeah.
Right? To keep you alive, because it's been confused. So that part of your brain, and this is all scientifically proven, I'm just not going to give you the research now, it can overtake your voice box.
Yeah.
So it can talk to you in your own voice. Now, I always wished it would go to me, Joe, get a donut. But it doesn't. It goes, hey Joe, go and meet up with Melissa because she's really friendly. Hang out with her and her friends. Oh, and get a donut on the way.
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like so subtle.
So subtle.
And it's so normal and habitual, and we just do it.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
And then once you eat it, it's almost like once it's down to like the last couple bites, that's when you realize you're like, what did I do? What did I just do?
This is a great question, right? And what happens is that, it's not a question, but it's a great observation.
Yeah.
What happens, this is called, in neurology, it's called who's driving the bus. So that part of you, that is a survival mechanism, it's like, hey, get a donut. You're like, no, I don't want to get it. It's like, okay, you're like, I'm on a diet. You're going along, and it just goes, bump. You're out the bus.
Yep.
It drives into the McDonald's, wherever it is, gets the donut, eats the donut.
And it's narrow, because I remember when I would be eating, like, because I used to eat like a whole bag of Dorito chips for breakfast, and I would remember eating the chips, and I'd be like halfway through the bag, and it would click, and I'd be like, what am I doing?
You come back.
Why am I doing this?
This is so funny.
Yeah.
I call it werewolfing.
Okay, yeah,
Like,
totally.
You wake up and there's all this chaos. You're like, who did this? I'm like, you did this. I'm like, did I? But here's the even more subtle thing, is that voice will sound like you, but you do always have a choice.
Yes.
But it convinces you don't. When I first started to look into it, I was like, I wrote a song about it actually. It's like my hands are feeding me and I can't stop it. But what you start to realize is that once you make a little bit of space between you and that voice that's telling you to do that, you start to get the steering wheel back. And that was the first time I started to find some freedom. That took about 15 years for me to discover this, that I was like, oh, that's not me.
Yeah.
And it's quite funny, and I don't know, we're going into this a bit now, but it's really funny. I would find myself standing outside supermarkets. If there was a CCTV camera, I'd be outside for maybe half an hour. I'm like, I should get it. No, I shouldn't. I should get it. No, I shouldn't.
Yeah, you go through that
And
battle.
I just can't.
Yeah.
I want to go home, but my body won't let me go home. And I want to go to get it, and my body won't let me get it. It's like they're in this battle.
Yeah.
And the way to resolve this is there's one thing that can really overcome this, is you relax. Like, it's such a tense experience that when you start to relax, all those hormonal triggers, they start to turn off, everything starts to slow down, and then you get like, I can actually go home. And here's the thing I want to make, the point I want to make. When you make that decision, you feel elated.
Yes, you
Nothing
do.
has ever tasted as good as me walking away
Yes.
from one of those moments.
And that is so true. It is like, and especially when you make the choice to eat something healthy on top of that,
Exactly.
you're just
It's
so
such a good
happy.
feeling.
You're like, I am so proud of myself. Another thing that I've noticed is that people don't allow themselves to feel that pride. They feel like pride is like one of the 7 deadly sins, and they're not allowed to feel proud of themselves. But I say it's okay, like as long as you're not like, you know, intimidating someone else or saying I'm better than you or whatever, but you feel that internal pride. You're like, I am proud of myself for making that choice of walking away and eating something healthy.
Yes.
And then you really foster that feeling instead of the negative feeling, and that fostering of the pride and the good positive mindset towards yourself as an act of self-love will really help to break that cycle. But takes time.
Yeah, and all that is so amazing what you said there, because it's possible, and you celebrate. So I teach people, I say the first thing you ever want to do whenever you try to do any kind of food change program is you celebrate. You go immediately into celebration. Just the fact that you're showing up, that is already massive. And then from there you work with it. But you've got to ignore the idea that there's a quick fix. You've got to ignore the idea that there's a 12-week program. You've got to ignore the idea that the goal is the food. It's not. It is an evolution of yourself to access your powers in each moment. And that's what this teaches you. And it's a really good teacher. It's better than a coach because it doesn't give up.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's a relentless coach. And you will get there. Provided that you turn it into an enjoyment process, you will get there. The only way you don't get there is you say, I hate this, I can't do it, I'm not trying anymore. And I like to stand up as the world's worst raw fooder. I've been at this for 20 years, or 18 years now, and I love it, and I've eaten tons of raw food, and I've transformed myself more than I ever could. I've met amazing people, and I feel like I'm starting to really lock this down. Like, I'm 70 pounds off my highs. I'm here at the Fruit Festival. I'm eating all raw. I was eating all raw in Chiang Mai. It's looking good.
I like that you own it. You're like the worst raw vegan.
Worst raw food though. There's no one around, because they either give up or they succeeded.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I'm still here.
Yeah, totally. But that's awesome. I really wanted to thank you for sharing all of that with everybody here. And you can find Joseph
Raw Awakening is my YouTube channel for now.
YouTube channel.
Check that out. I'm adding more stuff to there. And there's also ways, if you want to come out to the house, we basically let people come out. All kinds of people come out. It's a fruit-focused house. There's a lot of spirituality there. We do yoga, cycling, we have fun, and we make a mastermind. So we make it that everyone supports each other. And what's key about my house, what's different from a retreat centre, is that you make your own food, you do your own shopping, because I want people to be able to mess up.
Yeah.
Because you learn them to mess up. So say someone's at the house, they go, I'm going to go and get some mangoes. And they come home and they say, I went and had loads of bread at the supermarket. They feel comfortable sharing it. They're not hiding away. And all we do is we say, okay, so tomorrow, go and try it again. And they go, yeah, I managed to get the mangoes. And it's just a really good thing to rub out your mistakes. And I would set it in your life, if you'll never come to my house. If there's somewhere where you do binge eating or eat off plan, go there. I did it with McDonald's. I go there and I just eat bananas in the restaurant. Because it just scrambles the brain. I'm sitting in McDonald's, I've got like a whole bunch of bananas, and I'm like, just up yours, Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, you know what? I used to do a similar thing in the grocery store. I would have my cart full of produce, and I would walk down the aisles, and I would just be like, you know, like, I eat this, and this isn't food, and this isn't food, and this isn't food, and this isn't food.
I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
That's
so,
great.
because it trains you to be like, I'm happy with what's in my cart, and I don't need anything
We are
else.
so similar in this. So one more last thing, because I only one in the video now. What I used to do, right, I used to fill up all the shopping thing, and then take it around and put it all back. Because it felt like it was reversing it.
Yeah,
like,
that's a great idea. Yeah, you put your bags of
it's a bit
chips.
time-consuming.
But if you have the time and if you want to put in the work, you could totally do that. You've got all the junk food in your cart. Be like, I don't want that. I don't want that. Or another thing you could do is fill it all and just leave the cart.
I've done that as well.
Yeah, so.
But have games, play with it, enjoy your life. Because I can assure you, if you don't enjoy your life now, you won't when you've done it. Because nothing makes you happy. More is just connecting with yourself and being loving with yourself as you are.
Exactly. Totally.
Right.
So,
nice one.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for
She's
this
amazing.
Awesome video.
This woman is the coolest woman ever.
Thank you.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So if you guys like this video, please click like and subscribe to my channel. To get notifications for more, you can click the little bell. Subscribe to Joseph's Raw Awakening. You can find me on Facebook, Lissa's Raw Food Romance, on Instagram at Raw Food Romance, and on Snapchat, Lissa Raw Vegan. You can find Joseph Best on Instagram. Are you?
Not really. I'm a bit slow with all this, but I've got a Facebook page, Raw Awakening. You can just find
Raw Awakening. So head over there and check it out. And until the next video, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and fruit on.